You hear the thunder of hooves. 1387. Isfahan. The citadel walls shake. Your father orders the gates sealed. He's Sultan Ahmad Jalayir's cousin. You're 16. Persian nobility, silk robes, education, poetry. In 12 hours, everything changes. The gates break at dawn. Men rush the throne room. Your father's head rolls across marble. Your brother stands. Arrow through the throat. Your mother screams. Hands grab you. Timurid soldiers. You're dragged through courtyards slick with blood. Outside, they're building something. 28 towers, each one 1,500 human heads. Your uncle's face stares from the third tier. This isn't random violence. This is selection. Men die. Women and children live. But living means something worse than death for a princess. You're Turco-Mongol property now. Timur's property. The lame conqueror who built an empire on 17 million corpses, 5% of Earth's population, and you just became another asset in his expanding harem. Women fear war. Princesses fear Tamerlane's attention. If you value documented conquest history and the untold stories of medieval women like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual. Using sources from Tuvma Mekopeki's History of Tamerlane and His Descendants, published in 1446, an eyewitness chronicle from an Armenian cleric who survived the invasions, and Ahmad ibn Arabshah's critical biography, written in 1435 by a Damascus-born scholar who was himself taken captive to Samarkand. These aren't generic sources. These are men who watched it happen, who documented the screams. Now back to Isfahan. You're in a wagon. 40 other women. Some are wives of governors. 3 are daughters of the Muzaffarid prince. All nobility, all terrified. The convoy moves northeast, towards Samarkand. 2,300 miles, 3 months of walking. At night, soldiers sort the captives. Old women go left. Children under 10 go left. Young women of childbearing age go right. You go right. Week 2. A woman tries to run. She's Georgian, maybe 19. She makes it 30 feet. They tie her to a horse's tail. The horse runs. What's left isn't human. The message is clear. Running ends in the dirt. But staying means the pavilion. Timur's court travels, always moving. Following grass for the horses. Following conquest. The imperial pavilion isn't a tent. It's a mobile palace. Red silk walls. Gold embroidery. 300 attendants. This is where Timur receives ambassadors. Where he plans campaigns. Where he judges enemies. Where he takes new wives. The Spanish ambassador Ruy González de Clavijo saw it in 1404. Wrote it down. The pavilion measured 200 feet across, supported by 12 pillars. Decorated with Mongol battle standards. Inside, Sarai Mulk Khanum presided, Timur's chief wife, Genghis Khan's descendant. She wore red silk that day, headdress of pearls, rubies, turquoise, white veil. 15 servants carried her train, 300 attendants in her suite. Sarai Mulk chose the concubines, not Timur. This is how Turco-Mongol harems worked. The chief wife controlled access, controlled selection, controlled everything, and she had specific criteria. You're washed first, stripped, inspected. Slave women check your teeth, your skin, your hair. They're looking for disease, for scars, for anything that might displease. If you pass inspection, you're dressed in simple white. No jewelry, no ornaments, nothing that marks you as the princess you were. Then you wait. The pavilion has an inner chamber, curtained off, guarded by eunuchs. When Sarai Mulk signals, you're brought inside. This is the selection room. Timur sits on cushions, doesn't speak, just watches. Sarai Mulk asks questions. Where are you from? What languages do you speak? Can you read? Can you write? Do you know mathematics? Poetry, music, education matters. Timur's harem wasn't just about pleasure. It was about dynasty, about creating children who could govern, about securing loyalty through marriage alliances. Every captive princess represented a political opportunity. Your father ruled Isfahan. By taking you, Timur cuts your family's claim to power. By wedding you, he legitimizes his conquest. Your children become his heirs to Persian territory. But first, you have to survive the choosing. Some women are sent away, back to the general camp, to become servants, slave labor. They cook, clean, weave, hard life, but safe from the conqueror's bed. Others go to Timur's sons, his grandsons, his generals, distributed like spoils. Marriage as reward for military service. Your Georgian friend who ran? Her sister gets given to a cavalry commander. Wedding happens that night. No ceremony, just possession. Then there's the third group, the ones Sarai Mulk keeps. You're in that group. 6 women, all between 15 and 22, all educated, all from noble families. All about to learn what happens when a conqueror decides you're valuable. You're moved to special quarters, better clothing, better food. Teaching begins immediately. Chagatai Turkish if you don't speak it. Court etiquette. How to serve Timur properly. How to be silent. How to submit. And the fear grows, because you know what's coming. Timur had 43 wives and concubines, documented, historical record. Most came exactly like you, conquered daughters, defeated princesses, women whose fathers opposed him. Marriage wasn't mercy. It was strategy wrapped in silk and rubies. Every wedding cemented control. Every child born extended Timurid legitimacy. Take Sarai Mulk herself. She was married to Emir Hussein before Timur. 1370, Timur besieged Balkh, defeated Hussein, executed him, seized the harem. Married Hussein's wives, Sarai Mulk included. She was beautiful. Descended from Genghis Khan, perfect political catch. Timur called himself Gurkhan after that, son-in-law of the Khan. The marriage wasn't love, it was legitimacy, but Sarai Mulk made it work, rose to chief consort, controlled the harem, became Timur's confidant, acted as regent during his western campaigns, wielded authority at court. The Spanish ambassador called her the Grand Khanum, power through survival, power through submission, power through producing the right children. This is the model. This is what you're supposed to become. Wife, mother, political tool. Your body creates heirs, your bloodline legitimizes conquest, your silence ensures survival. And if you refuse, if you resist, if you try to maintain dignity, look at Despina Hatun, Serbian princess. Born Mileva Olivera Lazarević, daughter of Prince Lazar, married Ottoman Sultan Bayezid I in 1390. Fourth wife, never converted to Islam, kept Orthodox faith, influenced state affairs, 12 years of marriage, then 14. 02 happened, July 20th. Battle of Ankara, Bayezid versus Timur. Ottoman army numbered 85,000, tired, thirsty. Timur's forces cut the water supply, deflected the river. Ottoman soldiers arrived at Ankara with nothing to drink. Battle started. Serb cavalry charged 3 times, cut through Mongol ranks, but numbers don't lie. Bayezid's Tatar troops deserted, joined Timur's side. Anatolian soldiers fled. Bayezid tried to escape. Timur's cavalry surrounded him, captured Despina with him. The account split here. Timur's court historians say Bayezid was treated well, given respect, planned to restore him as vassal sultan. The intent was documented. After the final conquest of the country Ruma, Tamerlane wanted to give it again to Yildirim Bayezid and put him on the throne in return. But other sources tell different stories. Mavro Orbini, Ragusan chronicler, wrote The Kingdom of the Slavs, says Despina was forced to serve Timur's guests, dress cut to her navel, serving wine to her husband's conquerors. Laonikos Chalkokondylis, Byzantine historian, claims worse, complete nudity. Serving naked at the victory feast, Ibn Arab Shah, the Damascus scholar who hated Timur, also mentions humiliation, forced servitude. Degradation designed to break a sultan's spirit. Bayezid died in captivity, March 1403, 8 months after Ankara. Some sources say stroke. Some say he smashed his head against cage bars. Couldn't bear watching his wife's humiliation. Ottoman legend says the shame killed him. Modern historians debate accuracy, but the story stuck, changed Ottoman policy forever. After Bayezid, Ottoman sultans stopped taking legal wives, only concubines for 200 years, until Suleiman married Roxolana. The trauma ran that deep. Despina survived. Brother Stefan paid ransom. Heavy price. She returned to Belgrade, lived 40 more years, never remarried, became advisor during Ottoman civil war. She knew all Bayezid's sons personally, used that knowledge, political power through suffering. This was 1403. You're hearing this story in 1390. The fear is anticipation, because you don't know Despina's fate yet, but you know the stories that come before. You know what Timur does. You know the pattern. Van Fortress. 1386. First Armenian incursion, 40-day siege. Kurdish Emir Izdin refuses surrender. Christian population fights. Timur takes the fortress anyway. Armenian chronicler Tovma Mekopici recorded it. He was there, saw it. An order had come from the evil tyrant that women and children be taken into captivity, and that male believers and unbelievers be pushed down from the fortress. They immediately carried out his evil command and began to push everyone down. So much did the pile of corpses rise that those hurled last did not die. Men stacked like logs, women and children enslaved, driven to foreign lands, Archesh province, another Timurid, Jonge, possibly Timur's grandson, landlords murdered, many men converted to Islam by force. Point a sword, say the Shahada or die. Women and children driven to captivity. The pattern repeats, always the same. Slaughter the men, take the women. 1394. Amid modern Diyarbakir, Timur conquered it. With ineffable and unutterable sufferings, he killed the grandees with sword and fire. Everyone else, men and women alike, enslaved, sent to various parts of Timur's vast dominions, scattered, separated, gone. Delhi. 1398. December 17th. Sultan Nasir ud-Din Mahmud Shah Tughlaq faces Timur. 90,000 Timurid troops, war elephants on Delhi's side, armored, poisoned tusks. Timur's solution: load camels with wood and hay, set them on fire, prod them with iron sticks. Burning camels charge elephants. Elephants panic. Delhi falls. Before the battle, Timur slaughtered 100,000 slaves. Captives from earlier campaign, killed them because they might revolt. Fear of rebellion. After the battle, entire male population massacred. Women and children taken captive. The victory feast? Those women were stripped naked, forced to serve wine and food to their captors. Tatar custom. Then raped. The pillars of severed heads came next. Another trademark. 200 craftsmen survived. Timur wanted their skills. Brought them to Samarkand. Ordered them to build replica of Delhi's Grand Mosque. When finished, some rewarded, others beheaded for negligence. This is Timur's mercy, and you're from a family that resisted. Your father refused surrender. Your city fought. Isfahan revolted later, killed tax collectors. Timur built the skull towers. Now you're his prize. Selected, educated, valuable, which means you won't be a servant. You'll be something worse. A wife? The preparation intensifies. They teach you submission rituals. How to enter Timur's presence. Eyes down, 3 steps behind. Kneel without sound. Speak only when addressed. Respond in Chagatai, even though Persian is your tongue. Your language is defeat. His language is power. You practice until your knees bleed, until you can move through the motions without thought. Other women whisper their stories at night. Tukal Khanum, Mongol Khan Khizr Khoja's daughter, married Timur in 1397, skipped over other wives immediately, took second place in the harem, only beneath Sarai Mulk. Her exalted lineage, Genghisid blood, that's what mattered. Not love, not choice. Blood and politics. She wielded influence, helped choose other concubines, power through position, survival through pedigree. But most women aren't Tukal Khanum. Most are like Islam Aga, Ulug Aga, Dilshad Aga, names in the historical record, daughters of defeated emirs, widows of conquered khans. Some bore children, most didn't. The ones without sons disappeared from history. No political value, no dynasty secured, just bodies in the harem, forgotten. You wonder which you'll be, the wife who rises or the concubine who vanishes. 3 months after Isfahan, you reach Samarkand. The city shimmers, blue domes, tiled minarets, streets full of artisans, craftsmen from every conquered city, silversmiths from Damascus, glassworkers from Persia, weavers from India, all forced here, all building Timur's capital. Beauty built on blood. You're brought to the imperial complex. Walls 30 feet high, gardens with fountains, buildings that rival anything in Isfahan. This is where you'll live. This is your prison dressed in silk. The harem quarters are separate. Women's world. Men forbidden except eunuchs. Sarai Mulk presides. She establishes the rules. You learn the hierarchy fast. Chief wife at top, favorite concubines next, wives with sons after that, childless wives below, new captives at bottom. You're bottom tier. No status yet, no children, just potential. Days are structured. Dawn prayers if you're Muslim, forced prayers if you're not. Many captives converted, pointed toward Kaaba, ordered to recite Shahada, perform ablution. Historians noted this. Some scholars said conversion required before sexual relations with idolatrous women. Others disagreed. Said they could be servants without conversion, but concubines required it. The debates happened while you knelt facing Mecca, saying words you don't believe, to a god you don't worship, because the alternative is death. After prayers, lessons, more Chagatai, court poetry, mathematics for managing household accounts, music if you show talent. The education isn't kindness, it's making you useful. Timur wanted educated consorts, women who could advise, manage estates, raise properly trained sons. Your mind is another tool. Evenings are worse. That's when Sarai Mulk makes selections. She walks the harem, observes, chooses. A gesture, a word. You're summoned, washed again, perfumed, dressed in red silk. Red means chosen, red means tonight. You're led to the pavilion's inner chamber. Curtains drawn. Timur waits. He's 60. You're 16. He's lame. Right leg drags, right arm barely lifts, injuries from sheep rustling in his youth, arrow wounds that never healed. But age and disability don't diminish authority, don't reduce power. His eyes assess, calculate. This isn't passion, this is possession. You remember training. Eyes down. 3 steps. Kneel. Silent. He speaks Chagatai, asks about Isfahan, about your father, about your education. You answer correctly. Perfect accent. He nods. Sarai Mulk watching from the side. This is the test. Obedience, submission, the ability to become Timurid property completely. Then he decides, not tonight. You're too new, too untrained. Maybe later. You're dismissed. Return to the harem. The relief hits like cold water, but it's temporary. This will happen again and again, until he decides yes, until the wedding happens, until you become wife number 30-something. Because here's what you learn. Legal marriage isn't better than concubinage. In Timurid society, the distinction blurs. Timur married dozens of women but treated them functionally as concubines. Islamic law permitted 4 wives. Timur exceeded that constantly, justified it through political necessity, through conquest rights, through interpretation that conquest granted marriage privileges. The later Timurids refined this system. Scholarly research from 15th century sources shows they took freeborn Muslim women as concubines. Legal fiction. The Islamic prescription against more than 4 wives was strong. Solution? Call them concubines, treat them as political marriages. The women participated in dynastic politics, wielded power, but their status remained ambiguous, neither fully wife nor fully slave, trapped between categories. You're living that ambiguity. Persian princess turned Timurid concubine, or wife. The title matters less than the reality. You're owned. Your body produces heirs. Your bloodline legitimizes territory. Your silence ensures survival. This is the education they don't teach. The real lesson of the harem. Survival means submission. Power means pregnancy. Freedom means nothing. Months pass. You watch patterns. Some women are called frequently. Those ones either bear sons or entertain well. The ones who produce male heirs rise fast. Sons mean status. Sons mean protection. Sons mean the dynasty continues through your body. The pressure to conceive is crushing. You see it in older women's faces. The fear of being childless, of losing value, of disappearing. Other women serve different functions. Beautiful but barren. They remain concubines. Political gifts. Rewards for loyal generals. Timur marries them, then gives them away. Redistributes them like captured treasure. You hear about this? How Princess Angelina Hatun, daughter of Hungarian Count Janos, was freed after Ankara. Given to Henry III of Castile. Political exchange. Christian princess traded to Christian king. Her body was diplomatic currency. Or the daughters of Bayezid, 3 of them. Despina's daughters. Oroz Hatun married Abu Bakr Mirza, Timur's great-grandson, 1403. Samarkand, wedding arranged. Pregnancy, children. The dynasty absorbed Ottoman blood, legitimized Timurid claims to Anatolian territory. Pasha Melek. Hatun married Shamsuddin Mehmed, general of Timur, 1403. Same year, same city. These weren't love matches. They were conquests sealed through marriage beds. You understand now. Every wedding is political. Every pregnancy matters. Every child born shifts power structures. The harem isn't separate from empire. It is the empire. This is where succession happens, where alliances form, where territories get claimed through bloodline, and you're part of that machine now. The fear doesn't leave, it transforms. Early fear was about immediate violence, rape, death. Now the fear is slower, about losing self, about becoming the submission you perform, about birthing children who will grow up Timurid, who will forget Isfahan, who will speak Chagatai as mother tongue, who will worship at the altar of their grandfather's conquest. You're not just being married, you're being erased. 6 months in Samarkand. Sarai Mulk summons you, not for Timur, for herself. She wants to talk. The Grand Khanum sits in her quarters, still wears Genghisid finery, still commands absolute respect. She tells you the truth nobody else says aloud. Or you think submission is weakness? It's the only power we have. I was captive too. Amir Hussein's wife. Timur killed him, took me. I had choice, resist and die, or submit and survive. I submitted, but I made that submission strategic. I learned his needs, advised his campaigns, raised his grandson Ulugh Beg, built a madrasa, patronized education. Now I choose who enters his bed. Now I rule the harem. Your submission can become power, or it can become nothing. Decide. This is the lesson, the horrible, practical lesson. Survival isn't enough. You have to thrive within captivity, build power from powerlessness, turn submission into strategy. The successful harem women aren't the ones who resist. They're the ones who manipulate the system, who bear the right sons, who advise carefully, who construct influence from their position. Saray Mulk did it. Tukal Khanum did it. Later, Roxolana would do it in Ottoman court. Enslaved Ruthenian girl who became Suleiman's legal wife, who wielded extraordinary power, who changed the entire structure of Ottoman succession. But that requires something you don't know if you possess. The ability to kill who you were, to become someone new, to look in the mirror and see Timurid consort instead of Persian princess, to speak your captor's language not just with your mouth but with your heart, to birth his children and love them, to advise his campaigns and mean it, to make his success your success, to turn captivity into identity. Some women manage this. You see them. They move through the harem with confidence. They speak Chagatai fluently. They worship Allah genuinely. They advise Saray Mulk on selections. They smile when Timur summons them. And maybe it started as performance. Maybe it was survival strategy at first. But years pass. The performance becomes real. The strategic submission becomes actual loyalty. Stockholm Syndrome institutionalized. The conqueror's bed becomes home. Can you do that? Should you do that? The questions eat at night, when you're alone, when you remember Isfahan, your father's face, your brother's arrow wound, the skull towers, the screaming. Can you betray all that? Can you become the thing that destroyed you? But the alternative is worse. The alternative is being the concubine who disappears, who never matters, who produces no sons, who gets traded to some general, who ends up in some provincial city, some minor governor's harem, forgotten. Or worse, the alternative is resistance, open defiance. And you know how that ends. The Georgian girl tied to the horse, her body dragged to nothing. That's what happens to women who run, who fight, who refuse. Terror as enforcement, public execution as deterrent. The message is clear. Submit or suffer. So you choose, like Saray Mulk chose. Like dozens of captive princesses chose. You choose submission, strategic submission, the kind that preserves life, that builds power, that might, possibly, in some distant future, create influence. You choose to survive, and surviving means becoming Timurid. The wedding happens quietly. No ceremony, no celebration, just fact. Timur takes you as wife, number 38 or 41. The records blur, too many to count precisely. You're dressed in red silk, headdress of modest jewels, nothing like Saray Mulk's finery. You're new, low rank. The marriage is political. Your father ruled Isfahan. By wedding you, Timur claims legitimacy over Persian territory. Any children you bear inherit rights to that land. They become bridges, Timurid princes with Persian blood, governors for conquered provinces. The consummation is mechanical, expected. You perform the submission perfectly, every movement trained, every response correct. Afterward, he sleeps. You lie awake. This is marriage now. This is what you are. Wife to your father's killer, mother to future conquerors. Persian blood mixed with Turco-Mongol lineage. Your body, the battlefield where cultures merge. Months later, you're pregnant. The pregnancy brings status. Suddenly women treat you differently. Servants attend more carefully. Saray Mulk includes you in decisions. You're carrying potential heir, possible governor, maybe warrior. Your value skyrocketed. This is the currency of the harem. Not beauty, not education, fertility, the ability to produce sons. And you've succeeded. But success brings new fear. What if it's a daughter? Daughters matter less. They're married off, used for alliances, but they don't inherit, don't govern, don't command armies. The pressure for a son is immense. You pray to Allah now, because you've learned, because you've submitted, because maybe if you pray hard enough, if you believe completely, if you become truly Timurid in heart, the god of conquerors will grant you a son. Birth happens. 14 months after Isfahan, Samarkand, the harem quarters, midwives, pain. The child emerges. You hear the cry? The midwife announces, boy. Relief, floods. You've succeeded. Produced a son, secured status. The child is taken. Washed, brought back. Small, Persian features. Timur's eyes, proof of conquest in flesh. This is your son, your mixed blood child. Future governor of occupied Isfahan. Maybe. Timur visits. Rare honor. He looks at the baby, nods. He'll rule Persia. Just that. 3 words. Your son's fate decided. He'll be raised Timurid, educated in warfare, taught Chagatai as first language, Persian as secondary. He'll learn his grandfather's conquests as glorious history, his mother's people as defeated enemies. He'll govern Isfahan as Timurid prince, rule over the land that belonged to his maternal grandfather. Circle complete, conquest sealed through bloodline, and you'll teach him. That's your role, mother to future conqueror. You'll tell him stories, but not Isfahan's real history. You'll tell him Timurid versions, glorious campaigns, righteous conquest, Allah's will. You'll teach him Persian so he can govern effectively, but you'll never tell him about his grandfather's severed head, never mention the skull towers, never describe the screaming. That history dies with you, dies in your silence, dies in strategic submission. This is the real fear, not the initial terror of capture, not the dread of wedding night, but this slow, creeping horror, the fear that you'll succeed at submission, that you'll become the thing that destroyed you, that your children will praise their conqueror grandfather, that Persian blood will serve Timurid empire willingly, that your survival means your culture's erasure. Other women face the same horror. Each captive princess bearing conqueror's children, each one teaching those children carefully edited histories, each one perpetuating the system that destroyed them. This is how empires work, not just through military conquest, through these quiet submissions, these strategic marriages, these mixed-blood children who legitimate occupation. Timur understood this. Every marriage was calculated, every pregnancy mattered, every child born was another root sinking empire into conquered soil. You watch your son grow, he learns to walk, speaks Chagatai first, calls you mama, calls Timur grandfather with pride. You see the transformation happen, your child, your flesh, becoming Timurid completely, and you helped. You taught him. You submitted so well that your submission reproduced itself. Your son will never resist, never question. Never remember true Isfahan. He's proof that strategic submission works, that the conqueror wins not just land but loyalty, not just bodies but souls. This is what captive princesses feared. Not just the wedding night, not just the forced marriage, but this complete absorption. This transformation of self, this reproduction of conquest through their own children. The pavilion wasn't just where marriages happened. It was where identities died, where Persian became Timurid, where resistance became loyalty, where fear became love, and it worked. Timur's empire lasted over a century. Timurid dynasty produced brilliant rulers. Ulugh Beg the astronomer, Shahrukh the administrator, eventually Babur, who founded Mughal Empire in India. All descended from these marriages, from these captive princesses, from these strategic submissions. The fear was justified, because losing yourself worked, because submission created empire, because their mixed-blood children ruled for generations. This is history's quiet horror, the successful captives, the ones who survived by becoming their captors, the ones who bore children and taught them conquest as glory, the ones who built power through submission, the ones who transformed fear into strategy and won. If winning means surviving, if surviving means erasing yourself, if power means perpetuating the system that destroyed you. But here's the thing they don't mention in glorious Timurid histories. In the chronicles that praise Timur's brilliance, in the architectural descriptions of beautiful Samarkand, behind every blue dome is captured craftsman, behind every political marriage is terrified princess. Behind every successful dynasty is woman who submitted because death was alternative. The empire is beautiful, the strategy is brilliant, the horror is hidden in harems, in pavilions, in the quiet terror of women who chose survival over death, over self. You're one of those women now. Persian princess turned Timurid mother, living in Samarkand, teaching your son carefully edited history, serving Timur when summoned, advising Sarai Mulk on new captives. You've become the system. You process new terrified girls. You tell them about submission, about strategy, about survival. You've become the woman you feared becoming. And maybe that's the worst part. Not that it happened, but that it worked, that you're alive, that you have status, that you wield influence, that you've won. If this is winning, the pavilion still stands. Red silk walls, gold embroidery, 300 attendants. This is where you were chosen, where you learned submission, where you became Timurid, and now you help choose others. New captives from new conquests, Baghdad, Damascus, Aleppo, always the same pattern. Kill the men, take the women. Process them, transform them, turn them into wives, into mothers, into strategic submitters, into reproducers of empire. 1398, 12 years since Isfahan. You're 28, your son is 11. Timur campaigns in India, Delhi, you hear the reports. 100,000 slaves executed before battle. Entire male population massacred after, women taken captive. The pattern repeats, always repeating. Somewhere in that convoy is another 16-year-old princess, another terrified girl watching skull towers rise, another future you. She'll arrive in Samarkand. terrified, traumatized, grieving, and you'll process her, welcome her, tell her how to survive, teach her submission, help her transform, turn her into another strategic wife, another bearer of mixed blood heirs, another woman who succeeds by erasing herself. This is your role now. This is your power, built on the grave of who you were. And the cruelest part, you're grateful. Grateful you survived. Grateful you submitted. Grateful you bore a son. Grateful for status, for influence, for power. Grateful for the strategic success of your own erasure. This is what the pavilion creates. Not just marriages, but this twisted gratitude, this appreciation for successful captivity, this pride in strategic submission. Because the alternative was the Georgian girl, dragged behind horses, body destroyed. That could have been you, should have been you, maybe, if you had resisted, if you had maintained dignity, if you had chosen honor over survival, but you chose life, and life meant submission, meant transformation, meant becoming grateful to conqueror, meant teaching your son to praise the man who built towers from your grandfather's skull. This is the real story, the one beneath glorious conquest narratives, beneath architectural achievements, beneath brilliant strategy, the story of women who feared the pavilion, who entered it anyway, who survived by submitting, who built power through erasure, who succeeded by failing themselves, who won by losing everything, who became grateful for captivity, who reproduced conquest through their children, who turned terror into dynasty, who made empire possible through strategic surrender of self. The pavilion stands, the red silk waves, the pattern continues. Timur conquers, women enter, they transform, they marry, they birth, they teach, they perpetuate. Empire grows on their backs, on their wombs, on their carefully edited histories, on their strategic gratitude, on their successful submissions, on their children who don't know, who will never know, who can't imagine, because the mothers who could tell them chose survival instead, chose silence, chose empire. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's why captive princesses feared the wedding pavilion, not because of what happened there, but because of what it created. Not prisoners, not victims, but participants, complicit survivors, strategic submitters, grateful captives, women who succeeded at their own erasure, who built power from powerlessness, who transformed terror into opportunity, who made conquest legitimate through their bodies, through their children, through their silence. You are that woman, living proof. You survived, you submitted, you succeeded. Your son will rule, you have influence, you've won. If this is victory, if survival at this cost is victory, if power purchased with self is worth it. 1402, 24 years captive, Battle of Ankara, Ottoman Sultan Bayezid I, first captured. His wife Despina with him, Serbian princess, 30 years old, 12 years married, Orthodox Christian who never converted. You're assigned to process her, senior wife now. You know the routine. She stands straight, eyes forward, defiant. You recognize that look. You wore it once. 24 years ago, you tell her the rules. Submit or suffer. She listens, then speaks. I am the Sultan's wife. Present tense, still resisting. The reports come later. Multiple chroniclers, different versions. Mavro Orbini claims dress cut to navel. Others say complete nudity. Despina forced to serve at feasts, serving wine to Timurid officers, while Bayezid watches, chained, humiliated, broken. The accounts disagree on details, but agree on purpose. Psychological destruction. 8 months later, March 1403, Bayezid dies in captivity. Some say stroke, some say suicide, smashed his head against cage bars, couldn't watch wife's degradation. Ottoman legend says shame killed him. Sultan dead, empire fractured. 11 years of civil war. Timur's victory complete. Despina survives. Brother Stefan pays ransom. Returns to Belgrade. Lives 40 more years. Never remarries. Becomes political advisor. She found power through survival. But here's the difference. Despina maintained self, kept Orthodox faith, resisted psychologically even while serving physically. Her survival didn't require erasure. That was her strategy, different from yours. You think about paths not taken. Despina suffered more, but kept identity. You suffered less, but lost yourself. Which is victory. The questions return. They don't have answers, just different costs. 1405, February 18th. Timur dies. Otrar, Kazakhstan, campaigning toward China. Winter campaign. Caught cold, turned to fever, died surrounded by women and commanders. Iron Conqueror, dead at 68. The empire fractures. Sons fight, but the structure holds. Shahrukh takes control. Your son is 17. You counsel patience, strategic waiting. Timur's conquest methods applied to succession. Capital moves to Herat. Timurid Renaissance begins. Art flourishes. Science advances. Ulugh Beg builds observatory, creates tables used centuries later. The dynasty you helped create achieves brilliance, built on conquest, maintained through strategic marriages, through women like you. Your son rules Isfahan eventually. 1412, 26 years old, returns as conqueror's grandson. Your father's subjects bow to your son. Circle complete. Conquest legitimated through bloodline, through your body. Your people governed by your child. This is victory. This is horror. Both. You visit once, 40 years after you left, skull towers gone, buildings repaired, markets bustling, prosperous under Timurid rule. You walk streets. You walked as girl. Everything familiar, everything changed. Different family in your childhood home. They don't recognize you. Just Timurid lady now. Governor's mother. Someone calls your name. Old servant, am ancient, half-blind, but she remembers, sees who you became. Timurid clothing, Chagatai accent, strategic success. Her face shows everything. Betrayal, understanding, pity, just looks, then walks away. That look haunts you. The truth you hide. You survived. You succeeded. You betrayed. But did you betray or simply survive? These questions defined your life. 43 years captive. Longer than you were Persian. You speak Chagatai better than Persian. Pray to Allah daily. Believe sincerely. The submission succeeded so completely it stopped being submission, became identity, became truth. You're 60 now. Your grandchildren growing, pure Timurid, no memory of Persian origin. They speak Chagatai exclusively, worship Allah devoutly, serve empire loyally, transformation complete, not just in you, through you. Your bloodline serves conquest. 3 generations from resistance to loyalty. This is how conquest becomes permanent. Through bodies, through wombs, through children who don't know. You're 72 when death comes. Isfahan, your son's palace, surrounded by family. They mourn appropriately. Bury you with honor. History will remember you as success story. But alone, in final moments, you see everything. Isfahan burning, father's head, the terror, the submission, the transformation, all of it simultaneously. You understand finally, you weren't victor or victim, both. You chose survival as dignity, made submission into strategy, terror into opportunity. This was the only power available, and you took it, successfully, horrifyingly. The fear captive princesses felt wasn't about wedding night, not about physical violation, not about forced marriage. The real fear was deeper, the fear of succeeding at captivity, of surviving so completely that survival becomes identity, of submitting so thoroughly that submission becomes self. This is what the pavilion represented, place of metamorphosis, where captive became willing, where victim became participant, where princess became Timurid, and it worked. Across decades, across territories, across countless women, most did what you did, submitted strategically, built power through erasure, achieved influence through transformation, succeeded at their own destruction, became the system that captured them, reproduced it through children, perpetuated it through silence. This is the untold history, the one beneath architectural achievements, beneath military victories, the history of women who feared correctly, who understood what capture meant, not death, not slavery, but successful transformation. The conversion of terror into dynasty, the building of empire on backs of women who learned to become their captors, who taught children to praise grandfathers who murdered great-grandfathers. The pavilion stands in historical memory. Red silk walls, gold embroidery. Sources describe its grandeur. They miss what it really was. Transformation chamber, where selves died and strategies were born, where captive princesses learned the final lesson. Survival through successful self-destruction. The fear was justified. Because women who entered that pavilion didn't come out. Different women emerged, same bodies, different souls. Timurid souls, souls that would reproduce empire willingly. This is what they feared. This success, this survival, this transformation. Not temporary horror of wedding night, but permanent horror of waking up 40 years later realizing you succeeded, you survived, you achieved power, and it cost everything. Cost self, cost loyalty, cost memory, cost truth. The truth dies in the pavilion, with the captives, with the princesses, with the women who learned to fear success more than failure. Because failure was quick, failure was death, failure was honorable. Success was long, success was transformation, Success was betrayal of everything except breath, and breath costs more than death. Costs self, costs soul. Costs truth. This is the lesson history doesn't teach, the lesson hidden in harems and pavilions, the lesson those women learned, the lesson that built empires. Survival is possible, always possible. But survival that costs self isn't survival, it's successful erasure. Strategic extinction, brilliant self-destruction. Empires are built on women who chose this, who had to choose this, who made this choice seem like winning, while everything that mattered died quietly in pavilions, in strategic submissions, in successful captivities, in children who don't know, who can't know, who will never know, because the mothers who could tell them learned silence as survival, learned forgetting as strategy, learned self-destruction as success, until the terror transforms into a historical footnote, into academic analysis, into dry documentation, and the screaming stops, finally, when everyone who could hear it is dead, when only the successful remain, the strategic submitters, the grateful captives, the women who survive by becoming their captors, by reproducing conquest, by transforming terror into triumph. This is what captive princesses feared. Not Tamerlane, not marriage, not violation, but this exact thing, this successful survival, this strategic transformation, this grateful captivity, this reproduction of conquest, this building of empire on their destroyed selves, and they were right to fear it, because it worked.